Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today we have my good friend and fellow hacker Alex Lin here on the stream to help answer your hacker questions. So as you know, both Alex and I also make videos on the Hack5 channel, so if you've seen a video on Hack5 that we've done and you have questions about it, then you can always come on the stream and ask us questions. We also have a little bit of news here today. Varonis just released a piece of security research that I got to contribute to, which was pretty cool. So if we switch over to my screen real quickly, you can see that we did mixed messaging, busting boxes MFA methods. And this is really cool. If you haven't seen it, what basically happened here was one of our security researchers found that if you tried to log into a box account that had MFA or 2FA enabled, then there was a way of completely bypassing this without needing to get the victim's cell phone or have any text messages sent. So the way that this works is our researcher found out that if you attempted to log into the account with stolen credentials, let's say you phished them or something, then you should get a prompt that tells you, hey, you need to supply a text message code or an MFA code. In this case, that would be SMS verification. So if the user had signed up with SMS verification, normally I would get a page that would give me a prompt that would send a text message to the user, give me a code, and then I would submit that. Well, something interesting happened here. So it turns out that there's two endpoints. One of them for 2FA is for SMS, and the other is for an app like Google Authenticator. And what our researcher did was when they tried to log into a user account that had SMS enabled, they instead sent a post request to the application endpoint instead, the one that you use Google Authenticator for. So what they found out was that Box on their end was not checking to see if the valid response it got back was from the user account that was trying to be logged into. So the attacker, or our researcher in this case, was able to use an Authenticator app, their own Box account, and then get a valid key and response and post that into the request that was going to this other endpoint that's supposed to be for 2FA that uses an Authenticator, but that's not what the user was signed up for. So Box actually messed up in a second way where they never checked to see whether or not that user had SMS enabled instead of this 2FA. So by not checking to make sure that the challenge and response from the app were from the same account, and not checking to make sure that the user had the app enabled, it just lets you into that user's account as though they didn't have 2FA at all. So you can see a summary of this on this page on my Twitter. It's at varonis.com/blog/box MFA bypass SMS. So if you've been paying attention, we also covered a 2FA bypass like a couple weeks back that worked on the app-based authentication. So if you're keeping track, that's 2 out of 2 different MFA methods that we have now showed how to bypass. So if you're curious about how this works, feel free to ask during the live stream because, hey, we have been working on this all week, and it was really exciting to see this kind of cool research against something that most people feel like once it's set up, it's really solid and you don't have to worry about it anymore. The ways of actually getting around this are pretty easy if it's not set up correctly. So check that out if you haven't already. And if you have, and you have any questions, then feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the questions that we got on the YouTube videos that Alex and I have put out. And of course, if you are in the chat, and by the way, it's nice to see you, Zam, and everyone else like Dinkelberg. Thanks for the question last time. If you're in the chat, feel free to shout out a question that you have for us. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get to one of the ones that we got on one of our videos. So Alex, what's the first question?
We'll start with a question from last week's stream.
Oh, cool. All right.
So they want to know if we have any recommendations for good podcasts, news sites, or people you think are good to follow on Twitter or other social media in hacking or hacking news.
All right, Alex, what have you got?
Let me think. I know, like, for generic news, we usually use sites like Hackaday or Hacker News. I think you can also follow them on Twitter. They have some pretty good stuff. Bleeping Computer generally has good like cybersecurity news. That's what we use to pull in lots of the content we use for our news streams. Some good people to follow. I'd say like Deviant Olam does some good stuff for like physical engagements. He has like some really cool like security talks where he breaks into buildings, other stuff like that. I'm blanking on a few of the other researchers I'm thinking of. Just like Oh god, Sammy Kamkar also has some really cool stuff. He does like car
Definitely.
hacking, some physical exploits, like garage door hacking, all sorts of cool stuff like that. I know you really like that one macOS researcher guy
Yeah,
that you
the one
talk
that
about a lot.
Yeah, if we switch my
we bring him
screen,
up a lot.
That's Patrick Wardle. So if you're interested in macOS security, Patrick Wardle is an ex-NSA researcher who now makes security tools for macOS and does write-ups about the kinds of malware that infect macOS. And so he has objectivec.com. There's lots of his stuff. In fact, I have it running on my computer now, like some of these tools. Like this one's letting me know that no one has accessed my microphone, which is really cool. But he will frequently post about macOS security issues, and it's really, really great to see someone who makes it so easy to understand that is making so much free content out there. Yeah, there's lots of great people to follow, honestly, on Twitter. I really also like Matthew Van Hoff. Matthew has produced some really great research. Let me see if
He's
I
the
can find
Wi-Fi
it.
security guy, right?
Yeah, so this is
nice.
Matthew Van Hoff. If you're interested in Wi-Fi security, this is one of my favorite experts. He's really, really, really good at that. And I've learned more about Wi-Fi hacking from reading his research papers than I have pretty much anywhere else. So really, really cool guy too. But yeah, there's lots of people on Twitter. Basically, if you find like the author of a tool that you like or somebody who's involved in some sort of like specific like field of hacking that you think is really cool, then generally they'll retweet things from their sphere of interest. So I find out a lot about a lot of things for macOS hacking related like events by just following Patrick Wardle and then being tuned in to when he retweets something through his sphere. So I would say have a couple representatives of each area you're interested in, and then see if you can get a good feed together on Twitter. Aside from that, like places to keep up with cybersecurity and things like that, I do get a lot of my information from Twitter. There's not as much good content on TikTok, but She Networks on TikTok, our friend Serena is really good. So I would follow her if you're on TikTok. And I think that's pretty much, that's all I have for now, but I'll keep thinking about this one because it's a good question.
There's also just some good like general news feeds from research groups, like I guess like SANS Institute, Hackaday, just like other accounts like that you could follow on Twitter. This one was really cool if you want to switch over to my screen. I forgot about this guy. Are you familiar with Daniel Miessler?
It sounds super familiar.
He makes, I think I can pull up GitHub Cyclists. He makes and compiles like really cool tools like this security list thing where it's just a compilation of like millions of the most common passwords. But his blog is pretty cool. He covers general cybersecurity. You can see there's like a whole load of different topics he covers here: technology, information security, philosophy, stuff like that. But he has pretty good blogs on hacking stuff. He also writes really great tools, and you can find him on Twitter and also GitHub.
Yes, and also I do retweet a lot of news, which of course we cover on our Friday stream. But if you want to follow me, then I'll also be retweeting as much good stuff as I can find.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, so I have a question for everyone in our audience. I'm flipping it now. Now the Q&A is you. Why do you guys like my background so much? Can you switch to my screen? I posted this yesterday just because this has been my background for like several years now, and it got like kind of a big response. Why do you guys like this?
What
like,
isn't there to like about it?
It's funny. I like that it's anti-podcasting, and it's like I don't know. Yeah, so there's like a lot going on with it. But if you could let me know why you guys think this is so funny, like that would be great, because I've been doing this for a while now, and like I didn't know it was so great.
I think it's ironic we were asked what podcasts we recommend, which we don't even listen to podcasts.
That's true. That's the problem. So I listen to Darknet Diaries every once in a while because I love good storytelling, and it's really interesting to hear, perspectives from people who have been to all sorts of different realms that I've never been to within cybersecurity. So that's something I really like, but not for like technical stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really do podcasts in that way because my attention span is short, and I almost never have just like a whole hour where I'm like not doing something or doing, driving or whatever else. I guess I'm just not in traffic anymore. So yeah, like I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts, but I know there are some good ones out there besides Darknet Diaries, which I do recommend if you like good storytelling.
If you need any good ASMR channels, we can recommend you some though.
I don't know about that.
Okay, never mind.
All right. Okay. I think let's move on to the next question.
Sure. Do you want to take it from the YouTube? Or
Yeah, let's take it from YouTube.
Okay, sure. This one was on a Multego video you did. Any other alternatives to Chemise, as it's only paid for now?
Chemise, okay, so Chemise is a facial recognition search engine which has always been extremely kind of sketchy. What they do is they go and crawl around the internet and capture faces, and then it's okay, so there's an extortion scam in the United States where anybody who is arrested will have their mugshot posted in a place that's publicly accessible, and there's companies who will take this information and then take that, compile like a little profile with the photo, and then publish it online and force that person to then pay to take it down. So if any job, person like is trying to research this individual, then the first thing they're going to find is a mugshot of them and like a description of some crime they committed like forever ago. So this was found to be like pretty exploitative because like they were charging ridiculous amounts of money to take this down. It was basically publicly shaming someone in exchange for money. And unfortunately, that is kind of what this does. Yeah. After using this for OSINT and teaching a number of different journalists about it, I found that this thing looks for nude photos, like a lot. Freaky. It really is. When you look at the way that it's marketed, is find your photos online and have them taken down. So like, okay, is it arguably like that there might be, this photo is obviously up somewhere, being hosted somewhere. So maybe it is good to know that it's there, but it doesn't check to make sure you're the person in the photo. So what people were tending to be doing is they were identifying like adult actors and stuff like that by just taking their photo and posting it in here. And it wasn't even just adult actors. There were things that were posted in like weird like online groups that like weren't very well like trafficked, but they were archived. So if you had someone's photo, you were able to pull together sometimes like some really embarrassing photos of them. And this whole thing just seemed unethical, because in order to get a photo taken down, like most of the time you had to pay them or sign up. And it was only after like a lot of probing and questioning that somebody at the company told me that, yeah, there is like a link for things to be taken down, but they don't just have it out there. You have to email them in order to get it. So this whole business has been sketchy for a pretty long time, and they've needed a way of getting around the fact that, yeah, like it's really easy to abuse this to do all sorts of like sketchy stuff or stalk someone just with an image of their face. So yeah, I don't have a good alternative for it because it was in such a sketchy position that I couldn't honestly believe that the company was like real. But I mean, it did work. So I did offer some guides on how to use it while it was still publicly available in order to complete like an OSINT investigation in a more official context. But now that it's paid only, I would hesitate to even recommend a second one, but I don't know of any other competitors at the moment because yeah, it is a very sketchy and litigious business to be in, scooping up everyone's private photos that have been leaked on the internet in different places. So
it also just seems like it's easier to look for other people rather than actually use that tool to like take down photos of yourself that you don't want out there, which I find sketchy. I don't have any good alternatives though. There's other like search engine tools for images, but they don't really operate in the same like invasive way that Chemise did.
Also, thank you, Zam, for explaining why you like my background because of the double entendre. I don't know what the other entendre is, but apparently it's regional because I've never heard of it. All right, so we have one question, which is, how do you create an independent Wi-Fi IP like for Respawn, but creating my own, Raspon. So there we go. So
I've never heard of that project.
I literally have to Google this, but it's kind of sounds like maybe the configuration for Raspberry Pi. Oh, wait.
Oh, nice. It's like a home entertainment center, it looks like.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, you should be more specific because there's other things that have this namespace.
Yeah. Okay, that is not.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm having to Google your question.
Oh, Raspberry Pi SD image installer. This still looks like a very proprietary tool.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Yeah, sorry. Not really sure what that one is, but if you can tell us what it is, then I can tell you how to make an independent Wi-Fi IP for many different things, because that's what I've been doing in CircuitPython lately, just not maybe for that.
Nice.
All right,
we'll take a question from another video.
Yeah, cool. Which video is this?
This one's about how cars can get hacked by rolling code vulnerabilities. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so there's, so rolling codes are supposed to be codes that are derived from a secret number without ever actually giving up the secret number. So the idea is that you have a rolling code that will constantly put out a unique password, but that password is derived from some secret that both the controller and the remote both know. So they're cool because like you can have for example, if you hit a rolling code while you're like out of range, for example, and then come back, like it'll still be generating valid codes, but those codes that were transmitted while the two were not paired may or may not still work, which is interesting because hackers can use all sorts of like sneaky little tricks like wrapping a car remote in tinfoil and then pressing the button a bunch of times and recording those codes and then transmitting them, knowing that those unique codes are going to be good to open the car. So there's a bunch of different interesting vulnerabilities when it comes to this, and we were covering some of them in this video, which you can check out on SecurityFWD. But what was the question?
The question was, how would it work if there are 2 keys? Does that mean they are not using rolling codes? I have a 2011 car with 2 keys.
Yeah, so for one, in order to be totally certain, you would need to, basically like sniff the, and there's a couple different ways this could be implemented. Each code could be enrolled with a separate key, and the car could just keep track of, multiple entries for authorized keys. So that would probably by far be the easiest way of implementing this while having security around, making sure that older codes are timed out and things like that. So, for an example, a really good rolling code key would make sure that it's only going to be, the car is only going to be accepting like when it's in proximity and not like something that was recorded in the past that is just being used later. Because some cars will keep track of not the progression of the key, like what the most current key is and where it should be. They'll keep track of just the last used key. And if there's all sorts of different checks you can forget to do that could allow an attacker to use an old key or a key that was transmitted away from the car so it was never timed out. But yeah, so it's kind of difficult to speculate like how they would do that security because there's multiple different types of cars. Obviously, you have a pretty common one. So like I would assume they would do like the strongest way possible, which would just be enroll another key. But if you did have a weaker security model and you just wanted to add more keys, then provided both keys have the same secret number embedded in the little microcontroller and they're generating valid keys, then it should still work. The security scheme is just weaker because it means you could do some of these attacks like I've already mentioned, like taking one of the keys away, pressing the button a bunch, recording that, and then playing those back. So it's interesting because like you could theoretically have like a collision where like both keys like attempt to use the same like number, but the odds of that happening would be relatively low. So I don't think it would really be an issue.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something like that where they probably just have like maybe a header in the packet that differentiates between like the 2 keys and generates like maybe rolling codes for each of the 2 physical keys that you have, or maybe if they're lazy, just like one consistent code that's being blasted out. But there's really no way to tell unless you sniff the packets. So
we have a question, and that is, will you guys be doing anything with the Wi-Fi Pineapple Mark 7 5G module? And yes, we will. So we've actually been getting a good amount of questions about this, and we are going to try to be doing more Hack 5 episodes every week. So that means we're going to be covering more Hack 5 products, and because of the sheer amount of demand for people who want to hack 5 gigahertz, it seems like that's definitely something we should cover. So yes, we're going to be putting that on the list, and that will be coming up in the near future. Now the Wi-Fi Pineapple definitely takes some getting used to, and you have to kind of like ease yourself into working with it again, because working with Wi-Fi from scratch like I've been doing, it's definitely different having everything already set up for you and then having specific attack flows that kind of wants you to go through in order for everything to work correctly. So got a little bit of like reacquainting to do with the Wi-Fi Pineapple Mark 7, but we do have one and we're excited to use it soon. So either Alex or I should be doing some 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi hacking with the Wi-Fi Pineapple. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of questions just regarding like using it for general like network pen testing or like war driving or stuff like that. In fact, one of the questions we got on, I think one of my YouTube videos was just using the Wi-Fi Pineapple in general for reconnaissance and covering different functions of it. So yeah, we will be covering how to use it for a variety of things. Oh, is that the next question? Yeah. Go ahead and read it. We'll answer that one too. Is it possible to cover using the Wi-Fi Pineapple, all of it, all of the functions in one video? Whoa. I have one. I'm not completely dumb. Don't use it as much as I'd like. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we can do that. So yeah, the Wi-Fi Pineapple has a lot of different modules, and when you first get one, it is definitely kind of overwhelming to have all these things to click on, and then like nothing happens, and you're not sure. Like, yeah, so we can definitely do that. Doing everything in one video might be a little bit advanced, like touching everything or like doing like a quick walkthrough. Like that's probably more reasonable because like I for sure can't do everything that the Wi-Fi Pineapple can do in one video unless it were like several hours long. Right.
Zam says, who's going to send me a Coral AI module? I've been actually trying to get one of those for a while, but they're both expensive and hard to find. They're really cool, though. Are you familiar with them?
No, I'm not.
So they're like, are you familiar with, actually, I was going to make a dumb parallel, but they're basically like a chip that you can put on various embedded systems, and you can use it as like a mini GPU for processing stuff. And they also have like an external GPU that you can plug into your computer for machine learning. Or
Is this
other things.
it on my screen?
Yeah, that's the raw module itself. Looks like it disappeared.
Oh yeah, it's
now there's people.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you can interface with it over USB. So it'd be like that little component there. But you can basically just drop it down on top of like any SBC or embedded system, interface with it over USB or some other protocol, and use it to like distribute stuff you're processing for neural networks. You can train it to do machine learning stuff and things like that. And then this one's also an external GPU that you can hook up to your computer over USB Type-C and use it to like train machine learning models and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that is really cool.
I wanted to use it for hash cracking specifically, which is what I was interested in it for, but it'd be cool to mess around with it otherwise.
Yeah. Huh. Well, yeah. Add us to the list of people who want to get sent one, Zam.
Yeah.
Cool. So object detection, pose estimation, image segmentation, key phrase detection. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I imagine you could do all sorts of stuff like that, like having a key phrase where it auto hacks, like when it hears someone like mention something.
Right. I wanted to use it specifically just for like password cracking. I think I got interested in it after like messing with Google Collab, and then I found out that they put out like this chip, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we don't have one, but we want one, so that sounds really cool.
We have another question in the chat. How can I do an evil twin attack where one machine is doing a fake access point and the other one is doing the deauthentication? Is it possible?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, most of the time when you're doing an evil twin attack, what you end up doing is you create an access point that's mostly identical, if appearing to be a little bit stronger maybe, than the original access point, but it has the same credentials, it has the same name, same everything. And most devices will not differentiate this from the original access point. It will just assume that you are another extended service set, like a just repeater or some other network extender that's from the same network if it has the same SSID. So what you can do is, for one, devices around you will probably join that evil access point rather than the real one if you make the signal strength look stronger. So that's one way you can do it. Or you can force them off of the access point that they're onto, and their device will automatically connect back to the evil one. Because there really shouldn't be any difference the way the computer sees it. It's not really storing the MAC address. It's just storing the name of the network, the password of the network, and then the security type. So this is pretty useful. In general, if you are looking to like kick somebody off of an access point and then have them get on your evil access point, that's just the process to run. You'll identify who you want to kick off, you'll kick them off the network while presenting their machine with an identical looking one, and it should just very easily slide over onto the new network. Now the caveat obviously is if you're working on 2.4 gigahertz and then you have a router that's set up to have a 5 gigahertz connection and a 2.4 gigahertz connection with the same name. In that case, you might have a device that just automatically tries to connect to the 5 gigahertz network, assuming that it's out of range of the 2.4 or something like that. And in that case, you will be in trouble unless you have a 5 gigahertz network adapter, because most wireless network adapters are just 2.4 gigahertz and won't allow you to go after the device after that happens. So you can do this on the same device, actually. You just need multiple wireless network adapters. So if you just plug in 2 wireless network adapters, or if you have one wireless network adapter that is Kali Linux or whatever you're using compatible already in your computer, you can just use the second one. But with those 2 adapters, you should be able to both deauthenticate and create a malicious access point in order to force a authorized victim, this is for pen testing and legal reasons only, of course, to connect over to your malicious access point. So you shouldn't need a second device, but you could. I mean, you could even use a microcontroller to do the deauthentication for you, like the Wi-Fi Nugget, for example, instead of relying on a whole other like Linux system, because the deauthentication part is actually the easy stuff.
Yeah, there's also tools like I think it's Wi-Fi Fisher that automate a lot of this for you. So if you just have like an external Wi-Fi adapter, you can use that for like the deauthentication, and then it automatically like turns your internal Wi-Fi card into the thing that hosts the fake access point. So like the external Wi-Fi card will just like blast that person off the network while it goes ahead and connects to their device goes ahead and connects to your computer that's putting out the fake AP.
Yeah, and Zam also points out that WPA Enterprise, which is for fancy businesses, also includes validation of the access points themselves, which limits the vulnerability of evil twin attacks to those who can get the network certs. So that's true. So in order for this to work, I would first need to break into the first network and get certification in order for me to be able to forward the attack over to the original access point. So yeah, like this vulnerability is definitely not fully mitigated when it comes to WPA Enterprise, but it's certainly a lot easier than it would be if you just, like, I don't know, had like a network that didn't check at all. So anyway, if you wanted to put WPA Enterprise on your network, it would make it slightly harder, but it would not fix the problem. But it certainly is easier to pull this attack on a 2.4 gigahertz only network that doesn't have WPA Enterprise. So.
I was going to ask if you knew anything about like WPA 3 fixing that, because that seems like an easy fix, or rather just like an easy exploit actually. You can just have something with like the same BSSID.
Yeah, so
rather
WPA so it depends on which part of the attack you're talking about. So WPA 3 has two features which should theoretically kill this attack. The first feature is that beacon frames are authenticated, which means that you can tell that where a beacon frame came from. So if you are, just looking at an access point's BSSID, it should have some unique identifier that cannot be spoofed that make it uniquely, it. So if you created a second network that was trying to disguise itself as the first network, even though it had the same SSID, it would still be, most of that information would still be encrypted somehow, or at least come with the signature that couldn't be faked. So that's the first feature that should kill this. And then the second one is that this should not have deauthentication vulnerability. So you shouldn't be able to blast somebody off the network the same way that you can do now. And that's because deauthentication frames are also no longer able to be spoofed because they are authenticated. And that's really the big vulnerability that's being taken advantage of here, is that WPA2 does not authenticate management frames. So as soon as you start authenticating those frames, then a lot of these attacks just don't work anymore. So that's something to keep in mind when talking about Wi-Fi attacks, specifically when it comes to evil twin attacks and forcing somebody to join a different access point. Of course, open networks, who cares? With open networks, then you can just trick anybody into joining because it's very, very hard to tell which open network is the original once you start cloning it. So yeah, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. See any good questions? If not, I'll jump to one from the YouTube.
So one question was, can you guys come up with a tutorial on rainbow tables? I noticed a lot of dictionary attacks online, but no real brute force. And thanks. No, thank you. So rainbow tables are kind of old school. Do you know what they are? Can you explain them?
Yeah, so it's basically just a huge compilation of like different generated passwords. Usually they'll have like millions of passwords that are like auto-generated and stored to a disk with like the corresponding hash. So like if you're going to try to brute force a password that's, say, like some sort of alphanumeric value, instead of like generating the hash on the spot, you can use like a hard drive that already has like millions of generated hashes and then just compare it to this hash database to automatically like see if the password was stored there.
Yeah, so technically this is called, I believe, a pre-computed hash table.
Yeah.
Which means is you're sacrificing storage space in exchange for like speed when it comes to an attack. So I actually haven't done any rainbow table attacks because like
they're kind of dumb.
Let's not call them dumb.
Archaic.
They're a little archaic. So you typically see rainbow table attacks for like older styles of like password brute forcing, because right now like it's so cheap to just like get a GPU or get access to a GPU that you really don't see these sorts of attacks being as prevalent anymore. But I mean, we can definitely still cover it. It's definitely a classic kind of trade-off between one versus the other, where computing power has gotten so cheap that it's not as much of a good deal anymore, but it's definitely still a valid attack.
Yeah.
So not so much a question as a statement. I just got my ESP8266 and it was super easy to deploy a router on it. Thank you. Your guides are really appreciated. Hey, you're welcome.
Awesome.
So I believe you're talking about the ability to make a NAT router. Alex, what's a NAT router?
I forget that acronym actually.
Network Address Translation.
Yeah, that. So it basically sits between your phone and your Wi-Fi network and acts as like an extender. The point of this functionality is if you want to practice Wi-Fi hacking without just like screwing up your own home network, you can practice on this sort of thing that sits in between that also is able to pass valid packets back and forth. You can attack it and sniff actual network traffic on it.
Yeah, and there's some other really cool functionality here too. So you can definitely set this up to act as a network extender, and it will create its own Wi-Fi. Okay, one of two things. You can either have this act as a range extender. So you can have this mesh with other ESP-based network extenders and create kind of a network of them that can pass Wi-Fi amongst them, which is really cool. You can also have it create a different Wi-Fi network name and use it as a punching bag to try hacking and doing all sorts of other stuff, because it will allow you to do things like routing, meaning if you join two devices to the ESP8266 when it's acting as a network address translation router, then it will go ahead and route packets between them. So you can attack one thing from the other. If you don't do this, if you just have like a soft access point, then it doesn't do routing. So it means that like if you join one thing to a network and the other thing to the network, those two things can't talk to each other. But if you set it up at like this, so it's acting as a network extender, it will allow you to do all sorts of cool network shenanigans and like learn Wireshark and stuff like that. So I love these things because they're great for setting up labs, or they're great for setting up, things you can predictably attack and get, real responses from. So I'm glad you're having a good time with it. I think that these are very, very applicable for anybody who wants to either make like a network extender for IoT projects, because like I've watched YouTube videos on the network that it creates, but it's a little slow, like, so you don't want to like stream Netflix on this as a network extender. It is definitely slower than just connecting directly to your router. But if you had like an IoT project that you wanted to make sure, if someone like hacked into, or if there was a problem, it wasn't messing up your real network. Or if you just need a network extender for something that's low bandwidth, like sensors out in your garden or something like that, where Wi-Fi might not reach, this is perfect for that. And I've had really great results myself using it. So I'm really glad you guys know about it and like it, and I'm glad that our guides help, because I find it fascinating that you can take, oh, look, I have one of these like
look,
tiny,
I have one too. Mine's cooler though. Mine's cat-shaped. Yours is not.
Yours is a lot cooler.
Yeah,
you want to explain what that is?
Oh yeah, this is our Wi-Fi Nugget. So it's basically a carrier board for the ESP8266, and also like a development platform. But it comes with integrated features like, I almost killed our cat son. It comes with like an integrated screen at a 128 by 64 pixel resolution, so you can program like cool little graphics on it. We have like cat animations and stuff like that that's reactive to hacking. You can of course do Wi-Fi hacking because of the ESP chip. It also has like a built-in RGB color thing. If I actually plug this in real quick, you can see how cool this is. This is actually one of the newer prototypes of the Wi-Fi Nugget that
This is the newest prototype of the Wi-Fi Nugget that we just got in today. And Alex designed this. This is Alex's first surface mount design that we've made together that is tiny. It's small and cool and can hack Wi-Fi. So
yeah, I wish you could see it up. Thank you. I wish you could see it up close here, but you could check out some of the other videos we've done, like on Hack 5 about the Wi-Fi Nugget. But yeah, you can see it as like a reactive LED that we can program to like react to certain Wi-Fi attributes, like if your Wi-Fi is being hacked or something like that. There's like a screen where you can monitor packets, see live data coming in, display cat faces, and then also 4 buttons that you can use to interface with it. So it's really cool. What is this?
I have no idea. So somebody in the chat said, what do you think about the evil crow? And then they followed up by just asking, evil crow. So I immediately Googled this, and the images I got back were scary. Can we switch to my screen? So initially, my reaction is the evil crow is scary.
I don't like the evil crow. Wow, what about this one? It looks like that one toucan on cereal boxes.
Yeah,
he's kind of cute.
But like mean. I don't like its smile. But anyway, so that was my initial reaction to Evil Crow. But then I noticed this, a GitHub repository saying Evil Crow RF device. And I kind of feel like maybe you were talking about this. Also, maybe not the best background color for this. But yeah, you can see this crow is wearing a red hat. Get it? It's a red hat crow. And then it's got its evil eye, and then it's getting this double Wi-Fi with its...
He just looks like an evil dark blob.
It's got a spear. The bird's carrying a spear. So do I know what this is? No. But hey, there it is.
Nice.
So yeah, I've never heard of this thing, but it seems to be for pen test and red team operations. Operates in 300 to 348. This is...
It's all sub-gigahertz. It's like hack RF, but limited, I guess.
All right. Signal receiver, signal transmitter, replay attack, brute force. So I would say and it uses Arduino. Oh, well, that's interesting.
That's really cool. I've never heard of this.
Yes, I've never heard of it either. I guess my question is going to come like directly down to its price point and whether or not like it's more expensive than like a hack RF.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, like this seems like a cool and interesting project. There's tons of different remotes and other things that use radio communication within these frequencies. So I would be very interested to learn more about this. But again, I want to know how much it costs, or where to buy it, or if I can buy it, or if you have to make it yourself. Because if I have to make this thing myself, I'm gonna be, oh look,
I just found it
shop.
on AliExpress, but they're discontinued and there's no price point.
So I feel like, how do I feel about this? I feel like it's no longer available. So I'll let you know when it's available again, how I feel about it, because it does not appear to be something I can purchase. All right, well, I mean, yeah, sounds cool, can't buy it.
Yep, just like the, what's that one dolphin device? Oh, the flipper.
No, people are getting flippers. So our friend MG got a flipper and was talking about how much he liked it, so I'm a little jealous, but because I don't have one yet. But yeah, apparently they are shipping out.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
All right, let's take another question.
Cool. This one was on from photo to passport phone number. No, from photo to passport number with
yes.
Maltego.
Yeah, that's one of
really
my
cool.
most popular OSINT ones.
Nice. Okay, so it says, wow, does Maltego tell you where those data leaks originate? If you have a video on more of these kinds of tools, I'd be interested.
Ah, cool. Okay. So I did this video as kind of a primer for journalists in a training class that I was doing for Norway. What was interesting to have to teach the journalists at the Norwegian Institute of Journalism was how the data that comes back from this might sound great, but unless you go and track down the actual source, this is all just stuff on the internet. And this is like being able to crawl and spider and find stuff on the internet in interesting places, but I can put stuff on the internet too, and the source really, really matters when it comes to the kind of information you might be pulling up for an investigation. So there's ways of like associating things with data breaches. So Have I Been Pwned has a really good integration with Maltego, where let's say that you find an email address that has been breached, you can go and find out which breaches it has been involved in and kind of use that as a guide to figure out like where data might have been breached or where it might have come from. Other times, if you just locate like a data dump or something using Maltego, it's really important to know like what is the source here? Is this just on pastebin? Is it totally unvalidated? Is this real user data or is it like something else? A lot of the time it looks like you might have found something really juicy, but then when you actually look at the source, it's garbage or it's super out of date or it's randomly generated, or there's tons of different ways that a specific search term could pull up something that is actually not a valid piece of evidence. So for people who are going through and trying to find out where a particular breach or where a particular thing came from, then yeah, there are steps you can take, and it's really important that you find out where it came from because it might not be something that you can publish or use in your investigation. So yeah, Have I Been Pwned has really been good for that, but there's other ways of looking for the origin of data breaches, but that's probably the most interactive one I found is just taking a bunch of different email addresses that you find in that breach, running them through the breach checker, and then seeing if there's any overlaps in terms of like where they've been breached before.
Nice. I want to mess around with Maltego more. It seems interesting.
Yes. Maltego is really cool. There's lots of interesting modules that I used to train on that don't either like it's not the product focus anymore, or like they don't really have like they used to be able to do like live Twitter like analysis where you could see like things being posted on Twitter in real time in order to like track down misinformation and some cool things like that. But they've got some new modules as well that are really interesting, even though they took away some of the ones I used to like to train on. All right. What is going on? Oh, so Black Tactile says it's $79.99, and I know a secret site where it's available. Sir, are you trying to lure me into the darknet? All right, well, that seems like a way I could get my credit card stolen if it's a secret site, but who knows? Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, I would definitely be down to check it out, but I probably wouldn't pay for it right now, at least while it's on a secret site.
And while we have our hands on a hack RF.
Yeah, well, we have our hands on a hack RF, which I still feel like is right next to me, but I know has been picked up and put away. But yeah, so we're going to be covering a lot of different Hack 5 devices. We might also get to the hack RF, but we might also leave that to our cryptozoologist as well, because I know he really likes doing SDR stuff.
Nice. Cool, I'll take this question. This one is, okay. I am 60-year-old
Stop,
and want
stop,
to learn.
Stop.
I have to put.
Stop. No voice. Don't do it with the voice.
No, look at all the inflection. It's part of storytelling.
No. Pick a different voice.
I am 60 years old.
There you go.
And I want to learn Python.
Why is he British?
But I have. He has. Okay, do you want a sophisticated?
No, just like read. Okay, just pretend it's a truck driver. Read it like a truck driver.
I'm 60 years old
There
and
you
I
go.
want to learn Python.
Yes.
But have dyslexia. Hate my brain sometimes. Lol. Can anyone please help me with a website I can go to with video teaching, as reading for me is a nightmare. I have used spell checker, many times for this. I have a good brain, but letters get mixed up in my head. Do you have any good recommendations?
You didn't finish reading the comment.
I'm not too old to learn, but I am too young to stop learning.
As are we all.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So are there any good websites for video training? Yes, there are. Obviously, YouTube has a lot of really good stuff on it, but that can also it can also be few and far between. I find that Udemy also does have some great courses when it comes to creators who consistently put courses out for a type of content that you're interested in, that have a good track record in that and a good background. Don't just go with like the first Udemy course that comes up. Like it's often just like the most accessible. Might not be the best. We've produced a couple classes on Udemy, which were kind of a labor to do, but we just wanted to put some classes out there so you can find some stuff that we've done on there. And yeah, I would say Udemy is a good place to start, but man, it kind of like all comes back to like finding good like YouTube creators too, to find like specific things, because free online content is great. And yeah, I was doing a bunch of security stuff over the weekend where I had to find like online videos to go off of to learn how to use these tools. And sometimes there are such terrible distractions in the videos. And it could be just someone's like very funny accent, or something else like loudly happening in the background, like engines going or ambulances or whatever. It's just like too distracting for me to watch. So I understand the struggle of trying to find good online like video learning stuff. Although, of course, we do teach stuff on Hack5 and Nullbyte. But what would you say?
Off the top of my head, I can only think of two. The first one I'm a little dubious about. Didn't you, something related to Socratica? I think they had some interesting like Python stuff.
I like Socratica. Not everyone does, but I like Socratica a lot. I think they're cool.
Oh god, let me see if I can pull up the other one. I actually learned a few concepts about like object-oriented programming and like beginner Python stuff like back when I was starting out. But I forget what the channel is called.
You've been corrected. Both Zam and our cryptozoologist says that the Coral is an Edge TPU, not a GPU.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, if you switch over to my screen, this guy actually has some pretty good videos that are just like comprehensive on various languages. Like you can see he has this crazy like 1-hour course on Django for Python, Docker, learn HTML in an hour. There are some pretty good Python ones. I'm not exactly sure like where in this cluster of videos it is. But, oh, nice. You can see he has a lot of different Python videos covering various topics, but I've actually watched quite a few of these and they're pretty helpful.
Yeah, I would say like that's definitely a good resource for Python.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you do get stuck, then Socratica is a good place to go. I really like Socratica's like basic tutorials on Python. I think that they're super cool.
Yeah, I wish I just had more off the top of my head for like video content like around Python, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, well, Socratica is where I go anytime I need to like brush up on something.
Nice.
Okay, all right, we're getting towards the end of our stream. Do we have any more questions from videos?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm gonna go switch over to that. Let me see.
All right.
Okay. Most of these are comments, but one of them was on my most recent video, which was where we strapped an ESP8266 and a GPS module to the bottom of your drone and used it for Wi-Fi reconnaissance. So you can check that video out on Hack5. But one of the questions, or rather comments I got was, cool stuff. It would be interesting to get mapping back in real time.
Yeah, so that's something that we have not tried before. So currently it will write to an SD card because we're kind of assuming that the drone at some point is going to fly out of range. But if we had something like a cellular data connection instead, then we would be able to connect the drone to like the cellular data network and have it uploading data to a server in real time. And we could just watch that server and see exactly what's going on if we wanted to get real-time data. So that is probably like a better evolution of this, because if you have access to it, you can read and write, meaning you can also give additional commands like, I don't know, drop something, or like start recording, stop recording. Right now, one of the biggest and most annoying problems was we had to start the data recording as soon as the payload booted up, which then needed to be secured to the drone and flown around. So the first like big step you have to do when you get the data back is eliminate all the data from before the drone took off and after the drone landed, which was most of the data because of all the preparation work you had to do to make sure this thing didn't crash. We also had problems with all sorts of stuff. Like the drone decided at a certain point that it was too heavy and went into a different mode where it would only go to a certain height. Then for some reason it like geofenced me, and I had to bring the drone down randomly in a different part of a field. So we all had to haul ass like over to the other side of the field before some kid like took the drone. It was definitely an interesting adventure. So being able to take away some of that chaos by remotely triggering the recorder and then monitoring it in real time. So the use case that we did for this as well is we had our friend and also you as well, create an access point on their phone and then hide somewhere. And we flew around and were able to detect where they were by looking for those specific networks. So if we wanted to, we could create like a detector that would start like signaling us basically when we're flying over an area that has a person we're looking for in it, or a device rather that is on that person, I guess, and then start flying over that area in order to do more of an investigation. So knowing, that we found someone at some point during the flight is probably less useful than knowing in real time while we're flying if we are over the subject. So it's a really good suggestion, actually, and that's maybe something we might look at doing in the future, although it would probably make the drone even heavier.
Yeah, if you want to switch over to my screen real quick, you can actually see some of the stuff Kody was talking about. So like this was basically, this is a truncated portion of the data set we captured, just showing us some of the Wi-Fi access points. But you can see we captured like around 5,000. We had to filter out some of the time fences just because like before taking off, it captured just like a whole ton of Wi-Fi networks. But we were able to like plot it, see where the detected devices were spotted on a map. So this was just like a cluster giving us an idea of like Wi-Fi network density that we spotted along our warflying route. And then also the test access points that we set up after flying over, which we were able to find like the exact locations of. So like this was the network that I set up on my phone, and then also the one that we had our friend set up. But yeah, you can.
It's cool how cheap this is too, because like there's like how many components to like make this a thing?
I think just like 3. We had like the ESP8266, which is the same Wi-Fi chip on the Wi-Fi nugget. We had a GPS module, SD card. And then I think just a battery. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, so actually we needed the battery module as well.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so 5 components in order to make a GPS logger that's small enough, a war driving GPS logger that is small enough to fit on a drone and light enough too. So pretty cool, because all those components together really do not cost that much, but adding like a cellular data module probably would jack up the price a little bit, but it would still be really interesting to try sometime because it would give you that ability to control it remotely, trigger it remotely, and be able to see the data in real time.
Right. I want to do more like payload stuff with the drone, like be able to like drop like a Wi-Fi throwy or something like that to do remote monitoring.
That would be really cool if you could, or even if you could like land and then like leave something there. Like, that would be cool too, because maybe then it won't like bounce off the target or whatever.
Right.
Awesome.
I think that's what we have for questions.
All right. So if you have any questions that didn't get answered on the stream today, or if you're just getting here, like Zero cool. Sorry, guy. Then you can join us on the next stream. You can also leave the question on our YouTube channel, and we will make sure to answer it. And we'll also be answering questions from the Hack 5 videos we're going to be doing over the next week. So if you catch our video on Hack 5 and you want to ask us any questions about it, then you can always do so here. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the stream, especially Zam, per always. And we will see all of you next time. Thank you. Bye.